All right, so QuickBooks Online Certification User Exam Objectives. So, the certification exam, all right, is going to be a total of 37 questions, and the time frame duration is going to be 50 minutes. So, in this case, you're a little lucky because in this case, you get a little more than 1 minute per question to be able to answer the following, okay? But again, if you know the materials, the better, the stronger that you know the materials, the easy you can answer the question in 10 seconds, right? But if you don't know and you are unaware, then that's where you're going to be needing to practice in that area a little more. But in this case, you get 37 questions and 50 minutes to complete the exam. And the passing rate for the certification exam is scoring a 700 and higher. Okay, 700 is about a 70%, so it's out of 1,000 points. So that means the threshold is you just have to pass with a C or 70%, right? But I encourage you to try to aim for higher, of course. But if you get more than 70, great. If you fall below, then unfortunately you're going to have to retake the exam. Okay? Here's what you need to know. Once you take the certification exam the first time, you are subjected to have to be taking the certification for the second time within 30 days. Okay? So that means they're trying to encourage you to retake the exam as soon as possible because once again, you don't want to wait too long because again, you will tend to forget the information and so on and so forth. So they try to, if you fail the first time, then they encourage you to try the second time within 30 days. Okay? Now, with that being said, the statistics for successful passing rate for the first time is about a 40%, right? That's very low, but once again, it's because this exam is extremely difficult, right? I've mentioned, and I don't know how many times I've emphasized this, the certification, because again, you're trying to be the master of the program. It's not an easy exam. So that's why it is encouraged and truly emphasize that this certification is no joke. It's not an exam that you could just take just for fun. This is going to determine the rest of your career, right? By proving that you can master a program. So that's why the certification has a high stake because it's of the value it holds. Okay, if you're the lucky 40% who successfully passes the first time, you will feel such a relief once you pass it. But the passing rate for the second time around usually is about 80%. Now here's what you have to know. Since it's through the legitimate Certiport website or it's through an actual testing center agency, right? Of course, the exams are not going to be identical, meaning if you take the first exam, you're going to get a second exam with completely different questions. So make sure that you try to exhaust every test bank questions. You're more than welcome to also look up questions that are available online. Yes, there is a platform where you can do that. You can use research videos on YouTube for any certification tips and so on and so forth, practice questions, etc. Right? You have your book, right, which has about roughly 15 questions per chapter, so that's already there. Exhaust all the review questions that are in there as well. And if you haven't known this already, the answers are in the back of the book. Okay? So make sure that you go through the questions and go through them. Again, that's another source of information that you can use to help practice. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into the certification test objectives. So again, it's split into 5 different categories. I've already went ahead and split it even further to make it a little more easier to digest, okay? And also to take one section and break it down even further. So in this case, a student should know, or a candidate should know, number 1, QuickBooks Online Administration. So in this case, concept 1.1, how to set up your QuickBooks Online, okay? So number 1, recognize the features and benefits of Intuit's QuickBooks Online Plus Edition. So, again, where would you be able to find this information? If you go into your book or even the PowerPoint, I give you the link to the official Intuit website that maps out the different subscriptions that you can select, and on the Plus subscription should give you every single feature that is on there, okay? So make sure you go through that so you're able to go ahead and look at the different subscriptions and features. So let me take a quick second here to pull that information up. Okay. So once again, when you are on the official website here, you should be able to view the information here to be able to take a look at what are the options here, okay? So once again, you have all the subscriptions, but it's asking you specifically for the Plus subscription. Now again, you don't need to know details on the price because that will vary, but the important features that you want to know is right here. It's already highlighted in bold for you. The most important one that you need to know is the Plus subscription has the capabilities of inventory, and it has the capabilities of projects, and the other one is going to be I think those are the most 2 important ones, okay? Is inventory and projects, because those are 2 chapters that we took a look in the QuickBooks Online book to teach you. So that's the most important things, and of course, you have up to 5 extra users for this subscription. So again, this is what you want to know, that yes, you have the abilities to do income and expenses. Yes, you have the ability to track your bills. Yes, you have the ability to track time, etc., etc., okay? But the key thing here is you have the capabilities of inventory and having projects, okay? So that's the most emphasized part because we learned that in the book, right? So in this case, that is definitely what you want to take a look at, that through the subscription. So again, I'm going to say here, link to into its online subscription in PowerPoint, chapter 1. Okay, just know that the plus, right? The key there is the inventory and the projects. Okay, those are the key extra features that you get over the other 2 subscriptions, the basic, start, and the essentials. Okay. All right, describe licensing requirements for setting up an entity in QuickBooks Online. So in this case, licensing requirements is basically going to be what are the information that you need to have in order to set up your company file. Now in this case, you don't need to have a legitimate business or anything like that. But we do get to see Imagine Photography. What are the licensing requirements to set up? Well, you already know that part, right? You're going to refer to this in chapter 12, right? On how to set up. Set up your QuickBooks for an existing company. Okay, and that's gonna walk you through to all of those steps. So again, you have those 10 or 12 steps to set up your company file, right? Those are going to be basically the licensing requirements that you need to know. Okay, but you also need to know what kind of subscription that you are looking for your type of company, right? So in this case, that's going to be more important. But in this case, this question is also asking me or asking you again, if you're going to choose that subscription, what are the things that you need to enter in to make that information make it easier for you to set up your QuickBooks. So licensing is going to be, if you are a legitimate business, you need to have your company name, address, and all that information, right? But in this case, like I said, you don't necessarily need to have a actual legitimate company. We have two examples. You have Craig's landscape business. You got Yin Yang's productions in your book, right? And you also have Imagine Photography in your book. So that's definitely going to give you a lot of extra information there. Okay. Describe the process of migrating company into Intuit QuickBooks Online. So in this case, what is it talking about migrating? Okay? You have the ability to import data, right? Or in this case, migrate. Okay? So import company, or is it say existing company file. So again, if you have a QuickBooks desktop file, you're able to put it in here. If you have a bunch of Excel files, right, you're able to import that way too. Any other accounting software, whether it's Peachtree, SAP, I forgot what the accounting software is for Microsoft, okay? Any other type of accounting software, right? Peachtree, SAP, etc., right? In chapter 12, you will also get that how-to section there. So in this case, I'm going to put in here in parentheses chapter 12. Right? How do you migrate or import an existing company data file into QuickBooks? Right? So you have the ability by doing one from, you already had one from QuickBooks Desktop. You have one if you have Excel files or CVS files. That's what they call it, CSV files. Okay? Or you can actually import directly from any other pre-existing accounting softwares, okay? So make sure you understand the process of that. So again, chapter 12, okay? How do you import? Usually when you set up your company file, right, when you go through the interview, it will ask you, are you setting up a pre-existing company from a file? And then if you choose yes, then you're going to go ahead and select which software. But again, if you are not and you say, no, I'm starting from scratch, then you're going to start from scratch. So in this case, I'm going to make sure I put in parentheses here as well. We call this the QuickBooks setup interview. Okay. All right, describe the access of each default user role. So in this case, right, if you are going to be the accountant / bookkeeper, you're going to have full access to the whole entire QuickBooks itself. Full access, okay? Now, I also want you to spend time from chapter 2, I believe, on setting up your users, because you get to set up parameters and set up restrictions and set up permissions and access points for those following users. But the most important one that you want to know here is, because the book teaches you through the accountant and bookkeeper's view and role, right? You have the ability to make a company settings. You have the ability to set the closing date, right? You have the ability to change the different accounting systems, whether you're doing cash or accrual. You're able to set up the company file to what it needs to be. So that's why when I wrote here full access, you need to describe what that full access is. Because under the accountant's version, which we did take a look at, right? You should have all of those capabilities to be able to do all of that, plus view all the other functions such as expenses, payroll, sales, right? You get all of that, including projects, including reports. You get the functionality to be able to access all of those centers and so on and so forth. So in this case, you get full access in this case. So you definitely want to make sure you exhaust what those abilities and what those roles are. Okay, and with the accountant and slash bookkeeper, you also have the capability as admin to create other users as well. Okay, so again, I listed out a lot of things. I said close account settings. Okay, I said closing date. I said admin privileges. You have the ability to edit, delete, right, transactions, and you also get to create users. Okay, so exhaust the abilities of what that full access means when you're using the bookkeeper and accountant's version. Okay, all right. So any questions so far? Okay. All right. Okay. 1.2, managing Intuit QuickBooks Online. So what does it mean to manage? We're going to be identifying what the company information that you can and can't edit. So in this case, right, what can you edit and what you can't edit? Company information. You can pretty much edit almost anything in the QuickBooks Online. There's a few things that you may or may not. So for example, if you're looking into, setting up, for example, if you're setting up the chart of accounts, I can imagine that you won't be able to delete them, but you're able to edit almost anything in QuickBooks. So as far as company information, this is going to look towards the account and settings, okay, section, right? What are those things that you can and can't edit, right? So you could look at the information on the account settings section, right? There's a bunch of different tabs that you can and can't edit. So that case, you're normally going to be able to edit almost everything because it gives you the option to do so. Okay, so making sure that those company information do go through the accounting and settings process. Okay. Recognizing the benefits of the class and, closing the books feature. So we just talked about this. Okay. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and say, what does the closing the books do? How do you do it? And why do you do it? Okay. So what does closing the books do? It locks the QuickBooks files. Okay. It locks the company file. Okay. From other users to have access to it when you reach the end of the accounting period. Okay? That's what it does. It just locks up the file so no one has access to it. Now, why do we do this? Because at the end of the year, you need to file taxes. Okay? And you do this to prevent any users from adding, editing, deleting transactions in a given accounting period, right? You don't want to have, in this case, this prevents any fraud. Okay? Now, how do you do that? How do you set that closing date? You need to go to the gear icon, right? Okay, and then you need to go to account and settings. You're going to go to the advanced tab. And then on the first thing that you have there is you're going to set closing. Right. Once you set that closing date, you're going to have the option to set parameters. Are you going to allow transactions to be entered with a warning? Or have a password to be entered to enter transactions. Okay. So again, that is how you do it. What is it and why do you do it? Okay, so exactly you need to exhaust as much information for whatever you need. So this is for in terms of closing the date. Okay. Now again, this is also part of the adjustment process that usually normally happens at the end of the accounting period. Okay, when you're ready to prepare for taxes. Okay. Right. Next one says compare and contrast the cash versus the accrual accounting methods. So, right? What is the difference between cash basis versus accrual basis? You have to be able to tell me that, right? Cash basis, right, is when...
Well, when is the cash basis? It's when it's due, when you receive the cash, and accrual is when the service is done.
Correct, right? Whether or not you received a payment or not, right?
Yes.
So in this case, transactions are recorded when payment is received or paid. Okay. Transactions are recorded when service has been completed, whether or not payment has been received. Okay, good. So we have to understand now, in this case, here's something that you need to know. Okay, QuickBooks Online is default settings to accrual um, to the accrual basis, right? Why is that? Because that's the purpose of using QuickBooks, to be able to facilitate all of those types of accounts, right? You have a bill for a reason, because bills are for accounts payable, whether you pay them or not. The service has been completed, right? You record invoices, which is another reason for an accrual basis, because it allows you to record that you sold products, but you haven't received a payment. So in this case, right, that is why QuickBooks is defaulted to an accrual basis type of system, because the features, um, uh, or in this case, let's say, the majority features of QuickBooks is to make it easier to record and keep track of accrual based types of transactions. Okay? So, what am I talking about? If you want a cash basis, you will only need two things: your checking account and if you're using a credit card or anything like that, and then of course all of your expenses or your income, right? Because at the end of the day, where's all the money going? What are you recording? I'm recording when I receive money, so therefore I need that checking account. What am I going to record when I spend my money? You need your checking account. So in this case, all of the functionalities that you're using in terms of entering a bill, entering a invoice, you won't be needing that if you're on a cash basis. So in this case, under accrual basis, you end up maximizing the features and the abilities and the capabilities of what QuickBooks offers for businesses, right? So where if you're on a cash basis, you won't be needing that many accounts. You only need a checking account, a sales account, and an expense account. That's it, because that's all you're going to be doing. You're not going to be doing any more than than those simple features, right? Where you're only recording income, so you're going to be using a sales receipt, and you're only going to be using the write a checks function because you're paying for everything by cash. You're not going to be recording a bill. You're not going to be recording an invoice, any of those, because those are recording on an accrual basis, right? So in this case, you wouldn't be able to maximize the functionability and the capabilities of what QuickBooks offers to you. So a lot of the features would be not used if you're on a cash basis type of system. Okay. All right. So next one we have here is identify the purpose of project tracking, class tracking, and location tracking. So in this case, I'm going to divide this up. Okay, so we have projects tracking, we got class tracking, and we have location tracking. Okay, now what is projects tracking? Okay, projects tracking, so in this case, what does it do? Okay, projects tracking is if in case you have a large project or a large client who wants multiple things done in sections or things like that, under progress tracking basically allows you to keep track of one customer and all of the services and the products and services that you provide for that individual person over a period of over a long period of time. right? That's called project tracking, where, for example, the marketing photo shoot, or like, for instance, if a person wants to do a wedding photo shoot and they want you for 4 days and they want you to do this location, that location, that location, you'd be able to track that progress. Okay, so in this case, for for large uh, for large projects that require time. Okay, so i.e., marketing, marketing photo, marketing photos, photo shoot, or wedding. Okay, or for instance, if you have a whole week long convention, right, those are going to be considered a project if you need to show up every single day. Okay, so that is definitely something that you want to keep track of. It helps you keep track of. And what this does is it allows you to process um, process all your transactions into one area. Okay, so for example, right, for the marketing photo sessions, we were able to enter in a bill, right? We were able to enter in an estimate. We were able to enter in a invoice. Okay, we were also able to enter in any purchase orders. Right, we were able to do everything all in one area. Okay, now in this case, what does class tracking do? Class tracking, okay, and location tracking, they kind of do the same thing, all right? But the way that we use class tracking is to further organize your income and expenses by um, by by a detailed, I can't describe it, by a detailed category. Okay, right? If you want to categorize your classes based on whether it is, which we said, you could do line of business, right? You could do department. You can do, again, what we did was admin, overhead, right? You could separate by department, right? Now, in this case, they also entered in a similar feature for locations. Locations, again, is going to be whether you want again, to further categorize your income and expenses based on location, property, region, right? Area. That's the more one right there. But for classifications, if you want to choose by department, line of business, something like that. For example, Pepsi Cola. We've given that example many times, where you can choose to separate the classifications based on the line of product, right? So in this case, we could say one for the soda business, one for the tea business, one for the juice business, one for the water business, one for the sports drink business. So you can separate, and this is for classes. And then for locations, you could say, okay, this is for the West Side region, right? Where we're looking at the western section of North America. Or maybe we're looking for central, or maybe I'm looking at just the headquarters, right? You can separate them by location. Or if you're looking for a specific store in that case, that will be definitely different. Or state, right? You could do it by that if you choose to do so. Okay? But those are the examples of what those are. Now, in this case, right, if you're looking for the how, again, how do you set up a project? You simply go to your left navigation bar for projects, left navigation, right? And you go to projects, okay? Now you have to turn on projects first, right? By going to your account settings and turning on projects through, I believe it's your either your expenses tab, okay, or through your sales tab, one or the other, right? And don't forget that when you go through projects, you have the ability of progress invoicing, which we'll talk about later on down below, okay? And of course, for your class tracking, right, you can set up a list, set up lists, right, for class tracking, right? And you'll be able to do that, but you have to set that up through the account settings as well, right? Under, I believe it's under advanced tabs under categories, okay? So making sure that you turn those on first before you have the ability to have access to that that setting, that to be able to insert that list in there, okay? Okay. Okay. Oh, there it is, right? How do you activate those projects tracking and list tracking and things like that? So again, I guess I'll put it in here. So this is to access it, right? To activate it. Okay, like I just mentioned, gear icon. You know, I'm going to go ahead and double verify whether it's on which tab you need to be on. Okay. So you need to go to your account settings. Let me see. I think it's under expenses if I'm not mistaken. For no, so it is under sales. Okay. Yeah, for sales, you got progress invoicing. Okay, so then it's advanced tab. Projects. Okay, so they're both under the advanced tab. And then for turning on class tracking, it's through the categories. Okay, so right here, categories, class tracking and location tracking. So in this case, I could just answer that question in that one line down below. Okay. How to activate. Okay. Let's see. Last but not least, let's go ahead and answer this one last question here for section 1.2. Here it says right here, identify the tasks performed by automation. So what is this talking about? Now, let's say, okay, so automation allows you to have specific tasks performed automatically for you. Performed automatically for. Okay, for instance, right, let's take a look at that section. So it is in the advanced tab once again. So we're already there. Okay. Okay, under automation. So if I actually click on here, right, or you could see right here, there are 4 things that QuickBooks can automate for you. First one is going to be to pre-fill all of the forms with previous entered content. So if I were to do a invoice, right, it will pre-fill it will leave all the information in there respectively from the previous transaction. So in this case, that saves you time to go ahead and entering in a transaction more than once of the same exact transaction, right? But in this case, for us, we're dealing with multiple people, so that is something that I do not want to have on there, just because we would have to erase everything, put in all the information all over again, and that's not something that would work for us. But you can pre-fill the information that you previously had in there earlier. Okay. Another one too is automatically applying credits. So when you have vendor credits, it will automatically apply it for you as soon as you enter in your vendor credit. It will automatically apply it to the bill that is associated to, or it will automatically apply it to the account itself. So then it will reduce the accounts payable for you. Now in this case, if you're dealing with a bunch of vendors that give you all these vendor credits and you want to make it as easy as possible for you, then great. If not, I would recommend you to manually do that, because not every vendor credit you want to have will apply to the associated account. What if you have 5 bills with this individual vendor, and you have apply that one vendor credit? It's going to apply to the overall account. It's not going to know which bill you're applying it to. So in this case, that is something that you may want to take into consideration. If that's the case, you would definitely want to prevent that, right? You definitely want to make sure. And on top of that, that's a better accounting method to do, is to ensure that when you make those payments to your vendors, right, you're paying the correct amount. So therefore, you're verifying that the credit went through and that you're applying it to the correct bill. So that in case that you definitely want to be able to manually do that. Another thing says right here, automatically invoice unbilled activity. So in this case, if you are pending to bill somebody, it's going to automatically create that transaction. So again, if you selected that you are purchasing something for a specific customer and you designate that customer, this right here says right here, it will automatically bill those customers that you selected to be unbilled, right? You don't want to do that, because again, if it's your intention is not to bill them, then you don't want to have a magic bill appear automatically for you. So you definitely do not want to have that on. And automatically apply bill payments. So in this case, bill payments is going to be in terms of when you pay your bills. Yes, you can set up an auto pay, but the thing here is you also want to be you also want to keep track of your payments to those bills, because right, again, every business, right, will have their priorities. So if you need to pay rent first, then that goes first, and then pay your other vendors later. So in this case, if you do bill payment automatically, and you set up your auto pay to whatever you want to do for whichever bills that you want to auto pay, then it's going to do that for you. Okay, so in this case, that is what this automation for bill payment does for you. So this too, right here under the credits, is also going to apply any credit memos for your customers. Okay, so in this case, yes. So under that one, again, we said auto fill forms. We said auto apply vendor credit/credit memos. Okay. Auto bill unbilled customers. And then it will also do auto bill payment. Okay, or also known as auto pay. Okay. All right. Right. So this is where I'm going to stop here for today, right? It's already 11:30 right now. So we're going to stop here for today, and then we'll continue the rest of the certification